You're listening to the best of the Ray Powers Hour.
This is the Ray Powers Hour. I am on the line with the one and only Debbie Hennessey, calling in from L.A. Deb, how you doing?
Good. It's nice that I'm the one and only.
The one and only. And it truly is an exclusive show this week, so the show is yours. It's the Debbie Hennessey Hour.
I know. I'm so honored. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be able to chat with you and get to play some songs for everybody and talk about them. And So, I'm excited.
No, I was looking forward to this, and a lot of people were talking about this in the chat room, and, we tweeted all week, and, we promote. Go figure. You gotta. You just have to. But, so how's everything going?
Good. Just, putting the CD out there. We've got some new videos out that we just did that were actually from the CD release party. So they're acoustic versions of the actual, full versions from the CD. But, it's a nice little kind of stripped down look at the songs. So those are new and those are up in the site. And then we did sort of a promo video for it. And we've got another show coming up this month. So, just keep them busy. When you're an independent artist, you got to wear all the hats and do all the stuff, and you just try to get as much done as you possibly can. So,
It's a DIY world now in our...
Yeah, it sure is.
I know. I'm lucky to have a couple of very, very good interns. But other than that, I'm the producer. I booked the show, and, you know how it goes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, you're all of a sudden you're like, oh, gosh, it's midnight, and you've been working for, 15 hours or something on stuff. It's like, wow, okay, maybe I should get some sleep.
Yeah, well, I'll sleep one day.
Yeah.
But, you've released a good amount of music over recent years, and, a couple of full-length albums and some EPs and some Christmas music, and I've looked through your catalog. It's pretty extensive. You've established yourself in a considerable way. For the benefit of those listening tonight, who are discovering you tonight, and you're always going to pick up new fans. It's a great part of doing something like this. How did you get your musical start? I recently have looked back at the catalog and gone, wow, it sort of exploded the last few years. And it was interesting how that all kind of came about. Just in terms of starting out, I've always been musical and did things and was in bands and that type of stuff. But when I moved to LA about 17 years ago or so, it all sort of really started to come together as it was at that time where the things sort of shifted from you had to do the big studio, you had to have a lot of money, blah, 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 to it really became feasible to do a recording and press a CD, and it hadn't been accessible to people before. So, we were pretty new on that, and I was one of the first artists on the original MP3, and that kind of, was a boost and a lot of fun. But the one thing I didn't write a lot of my own stuff at the beginning. I've always written, but singing's always been my primary goal and joy, and so I was using some songs from other people that had never been released, but were appropriate for my voice or that just meant something to me. Sure.
And, they all became friends, and some of them, a couple of them had been released by the time we got the second album. But so we released the first album, and what I kind of did, because I didn't know any better, was I just sort of followed what the majors did, but I just did it at a very small scale,
Sure.
I did a radio campaign. I, did the interviews and all that kind of stuff, and that radio campaign led to a top 20 single on the New Music Weekly charts, which again was a smaller version of say a Billboard or whatever, but still respected. And then
very respected New Music Weekly.
Yeah, and then I won the AC Female Artist of the Year award back in 2004, and it was like me, Sheryl Crow, Sarah McLachlan, and two other independent artists.
Wow.
And I was just as shocked as anyone that that happened, and it was sort of voted on by the radio people and stuff. So that really gave a huge boost to somebody who, was really doing all this stuff for the first time. But that's kind of the basics of it, and then I just do all the promo myself. I try to come up with new ways to promote things, and one of my favorite ways is just what we're doing right now is talking to people on radio shows that are
supportive of indie music and want to get it out to people. So
it's what I live for. And to think, you beat out Sheryl Crow for one of these polls, and then here you are. And it really makes all the difference. It makes all the difference in the world when the people have a vote. It really does.
Yeah, it was. I was shocked. I was like, oh, come on. But yeah, it was kind of cool. And it's weird though, because it's a weird dichotomy because they're making a full-time living at it, and you're not as an independent artist sometimes, and I certainly don't. So it's a little weird, but I was just happy that the people that had the radio stations and radio people and some of the industry people that were in this particular pool just felt like hey, you know what, this is just as good as that. And that was my whole goal.
Right.
My goal has always been not only to sing at that level, but to write at that level, to produce at that level. The quality of the product, if you will, for lack of a better word, but the quality of the songs, the quality of the
record, sure.
albums, the record, it has to be at that level. Otherwise, I don't see a point in doing it.
Exactly. It's like making a film. It's like anything else, a painting. Mm-hmm. You want it to be at that top level, of course. And
yeah, it has to be.
People will, obviously it is a caste system, unfortunately. A garage demo sounds like a garage demo, and it's treated like one. When you have a slick sounding, finished, mastering, an album that sounds perfectly mastered, and it belongs with the Sheryl Crows and, like you said, the people who you want to be your contemporaries.
Yeah, and I think, it's like anything worth doing that you care that much about and spend that much time doing, it's just got to be right. And It's not even a matter of, I certainly don't sit there and go, oh, well, what is so-and-so doing? It's not even that. It's like, you're aware of the level of quality, and you just have to raise your work, your musicianship, your singing, your songwriting, and your final production to that level.
And be ultra efficient in the studio because time is money.
Yeah.
Literally.
Oh God, yeah.
But
yeah, or have really good friends.
Yeah. And speaking of other artists, I know everybody asks you this question, but it's obligatory. Mm-hmm. Who were the artists that inspired you the most?
Gosh, it's so hard to narrow it down, and I always feel like I'm leaving people out.
Give me
but I have to say, for me, it was Styles. When I was very young, my parents had a couple of Johnny Cash albums, and so I heard those a lot. And then, of course, we had the radio, and I was, I'm just old enough that at that time it was AM radio where they played everything.
And, speaking of Los Angeles, you're based out of Los Angeles. And
I am now, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we just went over, a few successful artists from the area. It's home of many successful artists, obviously.
Right.
And, of course, over the years, you had the famous or the infamous Sunset.
Infamous.
And that's been home to, more than one musical scene that really helped shape the industry for really decades. What's that musical climate now? Are people still going out and listening to live music? These places used to be packed every night, the Starwood and the Whiskey. And are these places even relevant anymore?
It's interesting. Like I said, I've lived here about 17 years, and I've maybe been up to the Strip, I don't know, a dozen times, maybe. It's really rare. It still is sort of a little bit of the leftover of the hair metal days or the punk days or it's a little bit more underground, if you will. I guess that's a good word for it. And the problem with the Sunset Strip in particular, there's only a handful of places up there. Although one of my very first gig in LA was at the Rainbow Room, I will say that. But, it's all pay to play up there. So
that's what Michael was telling me, yeah.
Yeah, you have to guarantee, I'm going to bring in X number of people, and you have to basically buy your own tickets and then hope you get your, recoup your money. And it's not that it's very insistent up there on that. And I don't really see the bands that are up there aren't necessarily the most cutting edge or whatever. There seems to be a mix of sort of a throwback.
We're not getting the new Van Halen coming out with something.
But there are so many clubs in the city, clubs or restaurants or listening room type things. Now there's been a real big change over the last couple of years, and we're going to see who's still standing at the end of this, because some pretty major places around the Valley and the West Side where I'm at have kind of changed ownerships or gone out of business or whatever, and so it'll be interesting to see what shakes out. But the places that I usually end up at are more along the lines of, well, we'd really like you to bring in 20 people or however many people they want you to bring in.
Of course.
But they're not going to they're not going to ding you if you don't. But you also might not get paid anything. So it's a little more, there's still that mentality in Los Angeles. So I try to be very selective about where I play, when I play. Right. I don't want to burn out my audience here,
Sure, spread it out.
I make each show sort of a special event. There's always something different each show. I always make sure we have something special going on. Like this one that's coming up on the 20th. I don't normally do stuff like this, but I was pretty affected by the loss of Glenn Frey because the Eagles had been such a huge influence on me. So we're gonna do an Eagles song, just for ourselves, because he was such a huge influence on what we do.
Now your brand of, I'm going to call it modern country, it's a nice custom blend, really, and it features a contemporary sound, and of course we're working on Pro Tools gear, so it's going to sound like it was done in 2016. But you also have that traditional songwriting acumen as well. Is that at all a factor that you consider while you're in the writing and the arrangement stages of a song, trying to find that happy medium somewhere?
When I'm writing a song, not necessarily. I am writing from a place of two things. One, there's always some kind of initial inspiration. And then there has to be some level of craftsmanship to make it hooky, or to make it be contemporary, or to make it just be whatever it is. But I let the song be what it's going to be, because I'm definitely I'm too LA for Nashville, and I'm a little too Nashville for LA, and
yeah.
It's a mix. It's a real mix of genres, but it's sort of falling in the AAA, the contemporary country, the country rock, and even country blues. We make sure things are live. We use live drums. We use, all live instruments and all that kind of stuff. So when it comes to once we're done with the writing portion and the song is the best it can be in terms of the lyrics and such, because it usually happens pretty quickly that we have a melody and the music. It's the lyrics that take the longest.
Oh,
and
me too, yeah.
Because you're trying to say something that's been said 1,000 times. So
right.
And
but still
find
relate to somebody.
A new way, a fresh way, and have it still mean something,
and not go over people's heads.
Yeah, and so once that's all done, when it starts to come to production, then we do definitely pay attention to what's going on, but we also come up with stuff that is uniquely ours, and I have to give Jeff a lot of credit for that. He really is amazingly creative, and to the point where he might send me a version, and I have to keep in mind what was on that version, because when I get the next version, there's going to be something different in it. There was something I really loved on the previous version.
Right.
I got to make sure it makes it through to each version, but you have to know what's current and what people are into. You can write, pick a period of time that you love and stick with it, and if your fans want to stick with it, that's great. But I think you have to stay competitive. I hate to use that word because it's not. I don't find music to be competitive. I love listening to other musicians. I love supporting other musicians. But
sure.
But I think more in terms of technical quality, you have to stay competitive. So,
right. Well, people have to
we make sure we are, up on things, if you will, and, And so I think that's the area where you sort of, tweak things and make sure that it's something fresh.
Well, we played Every Song Is You at the top of the hour, and during Power Trivia we played You Can't Unpull a Trigger. Why don't we play them Sugar and Rain? I think they'll really enjoy that. Why don't you give it an intro, and I'll turn it over to you. You could be the DJ on the Debbie Hennessey Hour.
Sure. All right. Well, here you go. You're listening to Sugar and Rain from my CD, No Longer Broken.
This is the Ray Powers Hour. That was Sugar and Rain by my guest, Debbie Hennessey. She's on the line. And, Deb, that's a great song. I mean, I loved all three. So.
Yeah, that was one of the co-writers on that, because I do... Co-writing is really my thing. One of the co-writers on that is Courtney Lee Hines, and she's a pretty amazing Americana type artist, and she had the idea, this title for Sugar and Rain, and brought it to Jeff and I, and had this great story behind it that, she's a very, very smart woman, and it was something about water has to be at a certain temperature before sugar will blend, and blah, blah, blah. And all I heard was, okay, two things come together, they make something different. And so I took that. I took her very technical idea, but with the beautiful title, and we jumped off from there. And, Jeff's the kind of person, you can just throw him a title, and he immediately knows how the music should sound. It's really kind of mind-boggling and a little annoying.
Yeah.
So, that it's happened that way with several of the songs. Sometimes I bring an entire chorus. Sometimes I, whatever. But several times I've sat down and said, "Okay, here's a title," and he inevitably comes up with the perfect music to match that title.
Well, it paints a picture in your head, and you go, "I know how this sounds." And you see the whole thing in front of you. I had a little bit of that, but yeah, it sounds like he makes a science of it. And
well, he and I are both very visual when we write, when we sit down and write, even if we just start from a title, we will go back and forth about the story, and it's always very visual descriptions between us, and then I'll go home and work on the lyrics. So yeah, you've got to tell a story. You have to paint a picture.
Sure. You want the listener to have that picture in their head while they're hearing the
song. And I want them to also have their own picture in their head. You know what I mean? That's the one thing I think that it's important to allow the listener, yes, we're telling a story, but a lot of times that story becomes very personal to the listeners. And I think that's why I had so much success with the songs that I did not write, was because they meant something to me, and they may have had nothing to do with the writer's original intention, but something in it spoke to me and spoke to my personal experience, and that's how I was able to connect with the songs and deliver the performance that we delivered.
Absolutely. So now you're promoting and supporting, this is your third full-length album, No Longer Broken.
Right.
You released this last June, and we all know that there's an entire generation now, and I'm going to sound like a grumpy old man here, but it's true. They have little to no concept of buying music because they know how to obtain it otherwise. I'm not going to call it stealing, perhaps, but they know how to get it, or for YouTube and everything else. How, if at all, has the approach changed for you since the last time you put out a full-length CD? It's been a while.
Yeah. Here's the one thing that I just, my experience is that, one, my music appeals to people of a lot of different ages, and some of that includes people who do want a physical CD.
Right.
And so I knew it was very important this time to create a physical CD if we were going to do a whole one. I also was very careful as to who it has been released to so far. It's not on Spotify. It'll eventually be on Spotify, but it's not going to be on it within the first year of release. And so there were things like that I did. Now, people can go to my website and they can listen to the full CD, but I was not going to dilute it that much. It's more of a slow rollout, if you will, and just enough to where, if you can get it on iTunes, or you can get an actual copy through CD Baby, or you can, hear it on my website, and then, we're doing some videos for it. I'd love to do more videos, and I really want to do videos of the actual tracks from the CD. Right now we just have some acoustic stuff up there and a couple of like sort of album cover, videos.
Right, still, yeah. So Deb, more than anything else, what's the one thing that you want people to get out of a Debbie Hennessey song or a concert or just a musical experience?
I think the main thing is I want them to be touched by it, not in a way that it means something to them. I always say I don't really tell people the full story behind songs because I don't want to put my exact experience or whatever it was into it so much that they can't put their own experience into it. I mean, I just know as growing up and as a kid and as a music fan, even to this day, my brain just has an interpretation and has pictures of what that song might mean or touches me in a certain way. And I think the most important thing is to allow people to have that same experience. That music, music means a lot to people, and they don't even a lot of people don't even realize it. But, if you hear a song from when you were a teenager, it's going to take you right back to that place. Or if you hear a song, you know what I mean? So it's like I want people to have, I want to write stuff that is both meaningful to myself and also, touches other people. And from the selfish point of view, nothing makes me happier than singing. So, I love to sing, and it's sort of my highest calling, if you will.
And, I absolutely love that response of, painting a mental picture in somebody's head and time stamping it because, if you can be, the Debbie Hennessey of 2016, somebody's first kiss or, you're somebody's, prom dance or something like that, you remember where you were in 1989 or 1995 or, and you could say, wow, I was in grade school. I heard the song in the back of my dad's car or something, or, those moments are usually, you hear a song and those memories come flooding back.
I think the two senses that really take you back somewhere immediately are hearing and smell.
Sure.
I mean, gosh, sometimes if you smell a certain, perfume or something like that, sometimes if I smell the perfume that my grandmother used to wear, it's like, boom, you're like, oh my God, those are the two things that sort of take you back somewhere, and they're sort of the music is sort of the soundtrack to people's lives, whether they realize it or not.
Absolutely. Well, Deb, we've had a great time here, and I can't thank you enough for joining me, and you're welcome back anytime.
Awesome.
And I'm going to play out the show. I'm going to play us out with Whiskey Charm. I know that's one of your favorites, and it's one of my favorites now.
That's our spaghetti western song, as Jeff calls it.
You listen to the Ray Powers Hour. My guest has been Debbie Hennessey. Her current album is called No Longer Broken. You can pick it up. Well, tell them where to pick it up.
They can go to my website, and there's a little button right there if they want to listen to some of the tracks, and they can either go to CD Baby or they can go to iTunes. And they can call 1-800-BUY MY CD, B-U-Y, my CD, and they can talk to a person in the U.S. here in Oregon and get one sent to them.
Awesome. Well, Deb, thank you so much. Hey, feel free to join the chat room for the last couple of minutes. And
absolutely.
You're welcome back anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well, have a great night.
Thank you.
The Ray Powers Hour.
It's the Ray Powers Hour. I am on the line with a good friend, a Toronto-based recording artist with a hot new single, racing up the indie charts and spilling rapidly into the mainstream. The single is called Precious Love. And my guest and my good friend, who incidentally is responsible for over 100 million records sold as a producer, arranger, mixer, and engineer, is Chris Birkett. How you doing, bud?
How are you, Ray? Good to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you. I discovered this song last week, and it's been stuck in my head all week.
Yeah, well, Precious Love is a universal message, right? We're there's nothing stronger than the force of love in the universe. So I write many songs, but I figured that it's about time that I wrote a pure love song, just about love. And it's about the woman I live with, who's my wife, and it's a real love song. It's not just a kind of like projection thing, fabricated. Yeah. I'm in love with my wife, and I wrote a song about her. The idea of the song "Precious Love" is that it's a celebration of a 10th anniversary of us meeting in Paris. So I'll tell you the story if you like, if you're interested to hear it. So anyway, I was playing with Buffy St. Marie, who's an artist I produce, in Massey Hall. It's a big place, big venue here in Toronto, and this is back in 2008, and the celebration for this concert was a double issue. It was the album called Running for the Drum, which I just produced for her, but also the Buffy St. Marie's official life story documentary called Buffy St. Marie, A Multimedia Life. Now, the woman that directed that documentary was phoning me constantly to get information about my work with Buffy, because we'd been working since 1992 together, when she made a major comeback in the music industry. Before that, she was in Sesame Street for 15 years, and then she decided to come back and make records again. So we started that album, Coincidence and Likely Stories was the name of the album. We started the album on what was then CompuServe, which is the predecessor to the World Wide Web. Right. And Buffy was in Hawaii, and I was in London, and Buffy sent her MIDI files, keyboard files, over to me, which took about one kilohertz of bandwidth. Wasn't very much in those days. We didn't have the audio bandwidth we have now. And that all arrived in my studio in London. I had to mirror her keyboard setup, and then I took all that stuff that she sent me, put it on 2-inch tape at that time, took the tapes to Hawaii, to Walter Becker's studio, Steely Dan's studio in Maui, because Buffy didn't have a 24-track. We did all the vocals there. So the whole album was born on the web, which is that we were the first people to do it. And Billboard magazine did a big article on it, because nobody had ever started an album on the over the web in those days. Wow. So my future wife, Joan Prowse, was phoning me about this information, because she was making the documentary about Buffy's life story. And so I was giving her all this info, and I quite liked her on the phone, but we didn't actually get together until I played the launch party at Massey Hall. I was playing guitar for Buffy. I met her physically then at Massey Hall, but we were both married to another person at the time. So anyway, after a few years, both our marriages coincidentally went pear-shaped, and we were able to actually physically see each other properly. So she came over to Paris in 2011 to see me in March 2011, and we officially consummated our relationship. I won't go into detail, but so Precious Love. I wrote this song because it's a celebration of that 10th anniversary of that actual meeting in Paris, which was in March in 2011. So it's a very important song for me. It has a emotional meaning and emotional connotations. So that's if you listen to the lyrics, you'll hear what it's all about.
I mean, talk about doing it right, declaring your love in Paris, the love capital of the world. Man, oh man.
It's the best place. It's a very romantic city. We were able to stand on one of the bridges across the Seine, the river, and kiss each other whenever we felt like it. The funny thing is, when I came to Toronto after the initial meeting, and we went into a bar to see an Irish band playing, I started kissing her in the bar, right? And suddenly I felt this whack on my head, and it was a beer mat. Somebody threw a beer mat at me and said, "Get a room, buddy." So I wasn't really used to that. I was used to this Parisian laissez-faire thing. If you love somebody, show your appreciation. But in Canada it's a little bit different. Wow. You can't really show those kind of intimate feelings in public over here.
That's wild. Now, you mentioned Canada. You live there now, but you were born in the UK, right outside of London.
Yeah.
How do you wind up in Canada?
Well, I wound up in Canada because of my wife, in fact, because I met her. So what happened is basically I moved I wanted to get away from Paris. I was living in France for a long time. After the Sinead O'Connor hit, Nothing Compares to You, which I produced, I had so much money coming in, I didn't know what to do with it. So I bought a 32-room chateau in the south of France, and I built a recording studio in it, and I recorded a lot of great artists there. You know, Bob Geldof, you know,
Sure.
The Buena Vista Social Club. A lot of really great records are made in that studio down in Bordeaux in the southwest France. But after I left that, my marriage at that time went pear-shaped. So I moved to Paris, and I lived in Paris for 6 years. I opened a studio, and I released my second debut album, which is called Freedom, in Paris. And I did a lot of concerts there. I hired a theatre in the middle of Paris for 15 nights to promote this album. But the Parisian, the French record companies and the French radio stations would not play my music because I was singing in English. So I tried singing in French, and it didn't really. I can speak French really well, but I got a lot of criticism about my English accent when I was singing French, right? So after a while, I thought, well, I'm actually living in the wrong country, because I was at that point. I was at the point in my career that I really wanted to get back into my recording and songwriting again. I've been making records for a lot of people as a producer, and I made a lot of successful records. I got my name on like over 100 million records as a producer, engineer, mixer. But I wanted to get back in. I always had my own songs on the back burner. So I thought, well, I can't stay in this country. I can't stay in France anymore because they don't really appreciate, they don't understand what I'm trying to do. So I thought, I've got to get over the water. So I went to Hawaii, and I built a studio there in Hawaii. It's the same island where Buffy lives, Buffy St. Marie. Right. And it was it's probably one of the best studios in the world. My son came over and helped me design it. But after a while, I was just like, what am I going to, we had this like fantastic studio, but there's nothing to do there in Hawaii. I wanted to play live concerts, but to play live on the island of Kauai, you have to play in a tourist hotel, and you have to play covers. And I didn't want to play covers. I wanted to play my own music. So I thought, well, okay, Hawaii is not for me.
Wow.
There's nothing I got severely bored, to be quite honest. So I already had met Joan by that time, my future wife, and she was going to move to Hawaii with me because we were in love, right? And anyway, I said, look, let's not move to Hawaii. Let me come over and live with you in Toronto, and let's start a new life in Canada. And I'm so happy I did, because the Canadians really like what I do. I opened a studio here as soon as I got here, and did a lot of great records there. And then I started doing live gigs, which I've always wanted to do. And I have to tell you, I'm really enjoying myself. It's the best decision I ever made to come over the Atlantic Ocean and be in the Americas. You know.
Wow. That's some story. I think I'd be stuck over in Hawaii, just still trying to figure out how anybody could get bored living where it's nothing but beaches. I mean, I know Hawaii actually.
I have to tell you, Ray, I'm not actually the world's best swimmer. So, there's not much. The main thing to do in Hawaii is surfing, right? Right. As you probably know. And I tried surfing, and I just almost drowned a few times. So I just thought, I'm not going to be a surfer. so that's it. I couldn't. I was in the wrong place, but basically, it's a beautiful place. But I believe that Hawaii is a fantastic place to visit and have a holiday and chill out. But you don't really want to be living there full time. I mean, Steely Dan got a studio in Maui, which I worked at with Buffy, but that's different. I mean, they've already made it in the music business. You can, if you're that famous and that you got that many fans, you can actually live anywhere you want in the world, right?
Well, that's true. Absolutely. Yeah. And I hear that a lot about, destination spots where, this would be great to live because you're on vacation and there are no responsibilities. You're not living real life. Your real life is on hold. It's nothing but enjoyment, exactly. Holiday food. And it makes sense. All your income is disposable. And of course, this is fun. Like if your honeymoon's not fun, forget it.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think that I realized a few years ago what my mission is, why I'm here. And I couldn't achieve that mission being in an isolated situation. I had to move into a city, a vibrant city. Toronto is a really vibrant city. There's a lot going on here. To achieve my mission. I could tell you the story if you like, if you're interested. I don't know whether you want to chop it out later, or whatever, but I was involved in my French girlfriend when I was living in Paris. She was a psychotherapist, and she worked with Stanislav Grof. He's a pioneer in LSD research. Now, Stanislav was unable to use LSD because it became illegal. So he developed a system from an ancient shaman technique, and he called it holotropic breathwork. Now, this system enables you to therapeutically work on your inner core, your inner being. Now, I was asked to run holotropic breathwork shops in Paris with my girlfriend under the tuition of Stanislav Grof. Now, I said, well, before I go into, before I actually work with these people who are going through altered states of consciousness, I would like to know what's going on myself. So I want to be a client first. I'm going to actually be on the mattress, going through the experience so that I can understand other people, right? So anyway, my first session, the holotropic breathwork session, was as a client. And I could tell you, I'll make it short, but it's a big experience. But I left my body and I met what I can only describe as one of my spirit guides. It was a real experience. I could see this electric blue energy being, androgynous being, talking to me.
Wow. And
this person said to me, look, Chris, you spent most of your life, in guilt and suffering and regret because you had a bad childhood. My parents broke up when I was 4, and I, had a lot of, I was ignored I was brought up by a wicked step monster with me and my sister who didn't like us, left us crying out in the rain and all that sort of stuff. So the being said to me, it's time to drop that and realize what your mission is. Your mission is that you have a incredibly big talent for music, and your mission is to use that ability that you have, that DNA ability, if you like, to actually help other people to feel better about themselves and help the evolution of humanity in a spiritual sense, right? So it was like being shot in the head with a diamond bullet. I just completely woke up. I was like lying on this mattress crying with gratitude because I felt free for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And so I wrote an album called Freedom. That's the one I released in Paris. The song Freedom tells the story of that transition that I went through. So anyway, to get to the point, ever since that happened, that realization, that breakthrough I had, I've never had to try and write songs anymore. They just come through me.
Wow.
I don't write any of my songs. I just channel everything. It just comes through. There's no effort whatsoever. So I've got 1,000 songs out there, and that's why I thought, well, I need to get what I'm saying in my music out to the public now, because I've been producing other artists for so long and helping them to realize their dreams. It's about time I got my stuff off the back burner and let people hear it. So Precious Love is the first launch of that. I released an album called Be Creative when I arrived here in Canada, and you should check it out. It's really good. Be Creative is a wonderful song. It's essentially saying that whatever you find yourself in life, you can find a way to be creative. We have it in us, all of us. All of us have the light in us, the creative light, the spirit light of the creative spirit of the universe. We have that in us, and we just have to get rid of fear and doubt and all the stuff that inhibits us from realizing that. So that's what Be Creative is saying. So that's a good thing to do. If you get time, just check it out. It's out there on the media. And the song Be Creative is on my YouTube channel. So if you go to listen to Precious Love on YouTube, which has this week we have 11K views, which is really, it's going up 1,000 views a day. It's going viral. Awesome. So if you while you're at it, check Be Creative too. And also check Wake Up, which is a song I'm going to play you in a minute on live. So that's a call to action song, but there's another song. But anyway, my whole point now is that I'm dedicated to actually getting my music out there for the first time in my life. So I feel like I've been reborn.
That's amazing. That's a great story. And I mean, just to have so much happen in such a short amount of time, I would imagine just having a career as an engineer and having all that success, that some people would just, put a cap on it and say, all right, let's call it a day and I'll retire. And you're just embarking on a whole new career. And I know it's different, obviously, doing records for yourself. Nothing left to prove, behind the console. But with 1,000 songs, is there this crushing pressure to I want to release an album. I have 10 cuts I could put on here. how do you select 10 songs out of that kind of?
Oh, yeah, it's a good question. The thing is, Ray, I'm not. To be quite honest, I get so much gratitude and pleasure when a song comes through me that I don't really care if anybody hears it or not. I don't really understand that. Mm-hmm. It's the thing of receiving a song is so gratifying that it doesn't really matter if anybody hears it. But I will tell you that one of the reasons I've decided to embark on this career of getting people to hear what I'm saying and in my music is that I have two beautiful kids who are both grown up now. It's Jim Birkett and May Birkett, my daughter. And I want to leave them a legacy. Now, they asked me to write a book many years ago because I got so many stories. You know, I've worked with like people you would like Led Zeppelin, and I got some great stories that I could tell you if we had a whole series of conversations together. But I'm going to put all this down in a book. But I want to leave my kids a legacy of beautiful music that's going to carry on through the generations, basically.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, you have a great new single, and of course, the listeners of New Visions Radio are familiar with it, as are affiliates. The single's called Precious Love, but I'd like to save that till the end, because I see you have an arsenal of instruments behind you, and probably in your lap. If you want to grab one of those, I know you'd like to play a song. I'd love for you. I wish you could be here in the Power Cove with me, but until that happens...
we'll do that in the future, don't worry.
Yeah, you come over to New York and we'll, grab some pizza and...
Oh, yeah. I played at the Bottom Line in New York a few years ago.
One of my favorite places. God rest it. It's gone now, but...
Yeah, it's an old one. I was playing with an artist called John Otway. We did a gig at the Bottom Line with a band called Squeeze, UK band Squeeze.
I love Squeeze.
One of my favourite songwriting bands, apart from the Beatles. But so and I played in what's the name of there's a hall in Highline Ballroom.
Oh yeah.
I played there with Buffy Sainte-Marie a few times. And in fact, the cover of my Freedom album, if you go online and check Freedom, the one I did in Paris, has a picture of me standing in the street in New York playing a Fender Telecaster.
Nice.
So I'm familiar with New York, and I like the energy there. So do you want me to play your song anyway? So.
I'd love for you to play us a song. What do you want to play us?
Well, I'm going to play you. I think I might play you. It's a call to action song called "Wake Up," and it's essentially, if you listen to the words on this song, it's about it sounds on the surface like it's a dig at corporate greed. The stuff that's destroying the planet. We're making stuff we're buying stuff that we don't really need as consumers, and it's being made in, exploited third world labor places. So the message in this song is, well, in fact, but it's more of a like it's that's in it, but it's also, it's kind of a First Nation message too. It's like, how can we own the land? How can we own the sky? And the wind and the rain, there are things that we just can't buy. This world is made for everyone,
Right.
And then that's the message in the song. So I'm going to play it to you because it's an important song. And check the video out on YouTube. My wife made the video. She's a good video maker and documentary filmmaker.
That is fantastic, Chris Birkett with "Wake Up." Wow.
Yeah, that's a kick-ass. Let's do something about the situation song.
Wow. That would have fit right in at Woodstock. You could have been on stage with Richie Havens doing that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I met Richie Havens once, funny enough.
Did you?
I was playing with Buffy, and we were doing a show somewhere. And I went up to Richie, and I said, "Hey, Richie, I just love the way you play guitar, man. It's so rhythmic, And he said, "Well, Chris, I've never thought of myself as a guitarist. I'm just a frustrated drummer."
You could tell. He told me, he didn't tell me, he told us, I got to see him at a very small theater here in town, that Freedom was just all off the cuff. That's something.
Yeah, he just made it up on the spot.
Yeah, he got stuck playing, he decided to go on first, I guess, at Woodstock. Other people couldn't get in, so he's like, all right, I'll take one for the team, and was just jamming on that. Can you imagine just having that?
Making a song up just out of the air, right?
Unbelievable. I can't remember words I wrote.
Well, that's the thing about I mean, he was just channeling that song, right? It was given to him by the angels as a gift, right?
Absolutely.
So the thing about improvising and jam sessions is that stuff comes out during those events that you do with other musicians, where you're truly communicating with. For me, music is the universal language.
Of course.
You don't need. It's nothing to do with culture, race, politics, anything. It's just this pure communication between individuals. And that's what's so beautiful about it. I don't know whether you play an instrument yourself, do you, Ray?
I do. I'm a career bassist, actually.
Yeah, cool, great. I love bass. Oh, bass, the final frontier. I just love it. But anyway, I play bass on all the records I produce usually. So, nice. But including Precious Love. That's me on bass.
What's your favorite bass?
Well, I've got a Fender Light here, this one here, and I've got an ATK, which I use a lot too. I think it's an Ibanez ATK, but it's an active. So I use it a lot for slapping stuff, It's got a really nice
and hot,
wiry kind of sound to it, But I've actually always wanted a Rickenbacker because I'm a huge fan of Chris Squire of Yes.
Me too.
Yes are my favorite band ever. I just have like musical orgasms every time I listen to them. They're just so the compositions are just so out there. You listen to a Yes song like Heart of the Sunrise. There's like 10 songs in it, and they all fit together. And it's perfect. And you just think, what the what? Excuse me, but
that's cool.
What's that? Why aren't people writing stuff like that now? So before I write anything, I get myself a fix of like Gentle Giant. Yes, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Chick Corea, John LePonte, all the guys that I used to, not just guys, but the people I used to, Joni Mitchell. I'm a great fan of Joni Mitchell, but I just get this fix of these awesome compositional songwriters before I actually go into, put anything down in the studio. I do that a lot. So it's kind of a, I tell a lot of I work with a lot of young bands. I do like producer workshops and I do songwriting workshops, and I work for a company called Indie Week here in Canada, and they send me over to Manchester in England, and go around the world, and I help people to how to write songs. So it's I tell young up and coming musicians, I said, listen to some stuff from the 70s and 80s.
Absolutely.
Because there's stuff that's been written there which is not happening now, and you need to listen to that because there was a seriously powerful creative energy around at that time, which is not happening right now, but it will again. This stuff comes in cycles, and I think that it would help a lot of people with their writing. It's just you can listen to a Gentle Giant song or a Yes song. You can go on YouTube and hear a Yes concert,
Sure.
And you listen to what Chris Squire's playing on the bass. It's unbelievable. It's he's not playing like the boom, root fifth tonic stuff like most bass players. It's like the John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin. You listen to the bass line on Ramble On.
He's an absolute ace.
Yeah, I mean,
in a band of four virtuosos. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you can do things on bass which can lift the whole. Even a mundane melody can lift it up into the stratosphere, make it sound great. So it's really important to be influenced, listen to that stuff, and and use it in your songwriting.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? That we're not getting the same output as we were getting in the 70s and 80s, at this moment?
Well, I hate to say some of it is because of the system's broken down. As we know, there's no money around now to put teams together. We used to work in when I was making records in London, I was working with Matt Langer.
Sure.
I worked on an album with Def Leppard, Pyromania. I programmed the drums on that record. It took me 6 weeks to program the drums on that record.
You worked on all that Fairlight stuff?
Yeah, I was on Fairlight. Yeah, I was one of the first people to program Fairlight. So his music composition language is really, really complicated. It's not like MIDI. MIDI's a piece of cake.
Especially back then, it was primitive. My God, you guys were just learning it.
Well, the drummer gave me his tape with him playing on the demos,
right?
And then I had to write all that out in score, and then put it into music composition language. It just took forever. And then we used to sit. Matt was like a fanatic about timing, so we'd sit there like literally a whole day listening to a hi-hat against the click. It's just ridiculous. Is it ahead? Is it behind? But anyway, it's the money. to get back to the point, but there's a lot more money to put teams together. Teams of people who are all really good at what they do. Like I work with Trevor Horn a lot, who produced Seal, and and I learned so much from those people. Tony Visconti was my mentor. He produced David Bowie, and he produced my first 2 albums as an artist. I had a band called Omaha Sheriff. If you go on YouTube and look for Omaha Sheriff, you'll hear some stuff there which is just mind blowing. It's the same level as Yes and those great bands from that epoch, but we can't do that anymore, and people are forced to make music on their laptops with a few machines and electronic sounds, which is great. It's kind of sound design, but sound design does not talk to the soul. It talks to the intellect. It's very interesting, but it's not touching the inner core, which is the songwriting. I mean, if you listen to some of the melodies which were channeled by the Beatles, you'll hear stuff there it's just unbelievable. You think, where did that come from? Listen to something like I Am the Walrus, or Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, or Michelle, by Paul McCartney. It's so beautiful. And that is not intellectual. It doesn't come from the head. It's not electronic music. It's from the soul, from the heart and soul, and that's the problem we're having right now. Is we're having trouble getting into that headspace because there's no money. But every stick has two ends, right? So the other side of this story, I don't want to sound like I'm an old fart, talking about the good old days, right? The other side of this story is the good thing that's happening now is that we don't have a coat sniffing A&R executive who's only interested in money controlling what artists do. That is a really good thing. In other words, we have the possibility of a person, even if they're sitting in their own room on their own, if they've got a brilliant idea, they can get that idea out to the public, which you couldn't before. You had to go through a whole system before. So that's the other end of the stick. It's a positive thing, but we have to be careful. I tell everybody out there that's writing songs now, who are young people, you get really excited when your song comes through you. You just want people to hear it. Don't rush it out there, because there's so much uncooked stuff out there on the web. Right. It deserves better. Don't rush it out there. Just spend some time on it and make it as good as you can get it. Put it away for 4 weeks and then listen to it again. You'll hear what's wrong with it. You say, well, that wasn't really ready. That was not ready to get out there to the public. If people do that, we'll get a much higher quality of music in the future.
That's what I was thinking. It's a double-edged sword to have that much access, because, as you mentioned, without a budget, you don't have a developmental team. You don't have the time to really curate and culture a new artist and get them acclimated to the whole system. And, in a way, that filter was kind of good, because now you're getting that quality control. But, it's on the other side.
Essentially, there's no quality control now, right?
Right, exactly.
It's a free for all. Everybody can get whatever they want out. So what I'm suggesting to young writers and artists is try and sit on your stuff a little bit and try and get it as good as you can get it, because it can actually be much better, and that will help the quality control thing. Because that's the way it used to work in the team thing. I mean, I have to say that if we can get back to teamwork, where you get a great engineer who really knows what he's doing, a great arranger who really just lives arrangement, and a great producer who knows how to pull the artist together with what the public want and what the artists want. That's what a producer is, a kind of middleman, right? Yeah. If we can get back to that thing, that would be ideal, but I'm not sure that we ever will. So anyway, in the meantime, I happen to be in the good, fortunate position that I am a producer and an engineer and a mixer, but also a songwriter. So I can actually, I'm one of the few people that can actually put all this together without a team around me.
With a ton of connections. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So but I have to tell you, I'm totally crap at promotion, because I'm just so interested in creating.
You can't do it all by yourself.
The phone goes and I just turn it off because I'm in the middle of a guitar solo, and I should be getting that phone call and just, So I mean, it's a lot of artists aren't very good at promoting, so we need we need some help on that. And people like you help a lot because you're playing our music.
Certainly, that was my mission statement with this show. And you can't do it all. Like they say, an artist has to be its own entrepreneur. And sure you do, but there aren't enough hours in the day, and you can't be an ace at everything. You know, promoters promote, producers produce, artists put out great music. You have the phenom that comes around once in a lifetime, like Prince.
The sum of the parts are much greater than the parts themselves. And it's a team. You cannot replace the value of teamwork. It's you see it in football and anything. Team spirit is so important, and we're not having that with the COVID thing. Especially has highlighted the fact that we can't be in teams anymore. So it's but it's going to be over. You know,
Absolutely.
COVID thing. We won't get into that. You know, but it's gonna pass. You know, as all things do. And, you know, I just think that, I think if we can start to think more cohesively as, interaction between human beings is so important. So if we can get back into that in the future, that would be wonderful.
You know, I'm telling you, next time we meet at a pub, I could pick your brain on just those drum programs for Pyromania, my favorite album of all time. I'm not going to bore the lay public with that because they'd kill us, but I could just geek out to learning all about these tracks and the isolation.
Well, I mean, the thing is that I've talked about I've done quite a few interviews, and I have mentioned. I mean, I've worked with a lot of really big people, but I've mentioned the Pyromania thing, and the reason that at that time the band didn't want me mentioned as the drum programmer.
Right, of
I was
course.
just mentioned as an engineer on the album, but is because the fans. But it's over now. We can talk about that now. It's okay. You know, you can mention the Pyromania drums are programmed on the Fairlight computer by Chris Birkett. It's no problem. You know, I don't think Matt Lang wouldn't mind that either. It's interesting stuff. You know.
Yeah, no. In the video, it was 5 guys just making a record as you go, and that makes sense. That's how that's done in the movies. You know, you press record, 2 minutes later, it's on the air. Wouldn't that be nice?
Precisely, yeah. It's open now. It's cool, you know. I don't think we don't need to protect any egos at this point, you know.
In the wrestling world, they call it breaking kayfabe. You know, now you can see behind the fourth wall now.
Are you a wrestler?
I'm not a pro wrestler, but I've worked out with a couple, and you know, I know the business a little bit. I know that side of it, and I grew up in the early '80s when that was becoming tremendous. And,
cool.
You know, before it really got mainstream, it was on at midnight, and it's like only dads would watch it, you know. Their wife came in the room, they would change it, you know. No, I'm watching a documentary.
Take that shit off.
Yeah, exactly. But,
I think for me, the wrestling thing is, I'm sure it started off with a really good, like, almost an animal thing, like the power of 2 human beings together, and who could, you know, outsmart the other.
Back to the Greek days, yeah.
For the wrestling I've seen on TV, it seems to be a lot of acting, you know.
Yeah.
You might know more than I do, but it seems like they're pretending to do something rather than actually, you know.
Especially now, it's just all like, you know, the dramatics before and after. It's all the show to sell tickets. It's not the Greco-Roman wrestling stuff from, you know, the BC era, but yeah, that's a whole different animal. But I want to play you out with this great song, Precious Love. Before we cut to the song, tell everybody out there how to get this great song.
All right, so Precious Love, you can go to my website. Probably is the best place because it's a central location for all other links, you know, like Spotify and all that stuff. So my website is chrisburkettmusic.ca. So Birkett spelled with an I, so it's Birkett. chrisburkettmusic.ca. It's a Canadian site, and there's also a site if you actually wish to buy it, if you'd like to actually own a copy yourself, you can go to Here Now. It's a company called Here Now that put it out. Sure. So if you go to chrisburkett.herenow.com, you can actually purchase a copy of it if you want to. So, but you know, you can also my website will take you to the YouTube link. So that's Chris Birkett Music. So, and by the way, I play a concert live every week on Facebook Live at Thursday night at 7. So please tune in and, you know, have a listen, because I usually do original songs and even stuff that I haven't even recorded. I'll do on the show just to try it out, see how the songs go with the general public. So that's Chris Birkett Band. Chris Birkett Band on Facebook. So facebook.com/Chris Birkett Band. Thursday nights, every Thursday, 7 p.m. EST.
And that's perfect. You can listen to Chris Birkett and come back to the Ray Powers Hour. We can live harmoniously 7 and 8 o'clock. There's the 1-2 punch.
Is your show at the same time?
No, it's actually an hour later. It's 8 p.m.
Oh, perfect. Great. Okay. We're not in competition. That's great.
Believe me, you're not opening for me. I'm closing for you.
Cool.
Chris,
feel better.
Come back anytime. I can't wait to have you back on the show. Maybe we can do this face-to-face next time. But go get that hot new single, Precious Love. There's a lot of meaning behind it, a lot of emotion, and a lot of love behind it. Chris, thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks, Ray.
The Ray Powers Hour.